Hey, gang. Monday, Easter Monday. And I guess we're all wondering, does it happen in threes? We all woke up today with the announcement of the passing of Pope Francis. And I guess it would be good to turn the camera on. There we go. Well, lots of tech issues today. There we go. Good morning, gang. We woke up today to the passing of Pope Francis, someone who had championed change within the Catholic Church for more than 1 billion of the world's population. And so now there's the process of, I knew this, something vacante. It's the mourning period during which time cardinals from all over the world will come to the Vatican and eventually elect his successor. Let me Google it. I know it because of the movie Angels and Demons. And in the beginning of that movie, the Pope passes away. And that's what starts the movie. Mourning period. Yeah, for the Pope. So it's 9 days. What is it called? Name of Novemdialis. That's not what I was thinking. I mean, I'm not saying that's not what it is. Clearly, I think they would know a hell of a lot more than. Process of electing a new pope. Come on. Conclave. Well, that's when they go into they lock themselves in that room. There was something else. There was some other Latin name that they used in the movie, and for all I know, maybe it's not accurate. I don't know. So, according to NPR, here's how conclave works. We'll share the screen too. So there we go. Who will be the next pope? Exciting question on everyone's mind right now. Here's how conclave works. There's the smoke. Yeah, okay, so in the picture, for those on radio or listening on the DNR app or out in Australia on Radio X, Pope Francis has died. He was 88. For those of you conspiracy theorists, yes, our nation's vice president just visited him this past weekend. So either there was something passed from the VP to His Eminence, or maybe it was passed to the VP. That's why a lot of people are saying here, reminding everybody that things happen in threes. But that is a view of the smokestack where the ballots are burned once an election has taken place. if it's white smoke, so I guess there's something that's put in the smoke to make it burn white like that. I think it's the temperature that indicates that they have selected a new pope and you can let us out. The white smoke is famous when it streams out of the chimney at the Sistine Chapel. It signals that a new pope has been chosen and sets off celebration among some 1.4 billion Catholics around the world. Behind the scenes, a mysterious and intensely dramatic process culminates in that smoke, literally. It's created by burning the ballots cardinals just used. White smoke signals that the Roman Catholic Church has a new leader. Black smoke means the cardinals will need to vote again. With the death of Pope Francis, the elaborate mechanism will now begin to decide who sits in power at the Vatican, the seat of the last absolute monarchy in Europe. It centers around the conclave, a gathering whose name stems from the Latin word for with key, or as for those who are in the conclave, I guess, without key. That actually comes from the 13th century. I just bit my tongue. Oh, that hurt. That actually comes from the 13th century, according to Bride Jensen, host of the long-running Pontifex podcast. She says cardinals couldn't agree on a new pope in 1268. And the church went nearly 3 years without a pontiff, despite growing frustration outside the cardinals' ranks. They locked the cardinals behind closed doors, and then they put them on water and bread so they would focus on the essentials, said Kurt Martins, ordinary professor of canon law at the School of Canon Law at the Catholic University of America. I used to live 3 blocks away from that. The initial conclave elected an archdeacon who was not an ordained priest, who became Pope Gregory X. The new pope ordered that future church transitions would begin with a conclave to avoid long vacancies. Cardinals in the conclave will be locked away within the Vatican, cut off from the outside world. As they deliberate, news outlets point cameras at the chapel's chimney, and arcane words enter casual conversation like Papabili or Pope Abel, the term for cardinals when a chance of becoming pope. When a reigning pope dies, an immediate duty falls on the Camerlengo, a cardinal whose title translates to Chamberlain. The Camerlengo declares the Pope is deceased and administers the Holy See until a successor has been chosen. So that person is now in charge. The Camerlengo is essentially the personal assistant, personal advisor to, kind of like in the mafia, the consigliere, national security advisor to a president, chief of staff to a president, so on. The current Camerlengo is Cardinal Kevin Farrell, the first American in that post. You might have heard that the Camerlengo uses a silver hammer to tap a pope's forehead 3 times to ascertain whether he's alive. That practice has become a matter of legend, according to Martins. The last time that ritual was used was in 1878, when Pius IX died, but that's not done anymore. We have a little bit more modern technologies, to wake somebody up or to see if they're dead. Upon the Pope's death, the Dean of the College of Cardinals calls the cardinal electors to the Vatican. There are currently 138 of them. To join the conclave, cardinals must be under 80 years old. I think it's because from within that group is the next pope. During the conclave, the cardinals live in the Domus Sancti Marthae, a hotel-like facility. Oh, this tongue's going to be fun. A hotel-like facility next to St. Peter's Basilica. It's where Pope Francis opted to live, rather than in apostolic palace, papal apartments. The residence has been compared to a 3-star hotel. I've eaten there. I must say I'd rather go to a nice Roman restaurant than eat there, Martin says. But he adds, that's part of the point. You don't want to make it more than a 3-star hotel because you don't want the cardinals to get comfortable, but instead to focus on electing the pontiff. Conclave begins with oaths of secrecy. The rituals take place according to rules popes have refined over the centuries, clarifying the time frame and obligations. But the conclave itself must be obscured by total secrecy, as Pope John Paul II wrote. Cardinal electors must sign an oath of secrecy and seclusion under threat of excommunication. That's why the process intrigues so many people, says Greg Gassman, a librarian who edits the Pontifex podcast. Some of the mystery does come from the closed nature of the conclave itself. It's fascinating. Once the cardinals are gathered, the dean of the College of Cardinals presides over a mass. The group then walks together from the Pauline Chapel to the Sistine Chapel, singing hymns invoking the Holy Spirit. In the Sistine Chapel, the conclave swears a secrecy oath in Latin touching the Holy Gospels. When that ceremony is over, you have the papal master of ceremonies who in a dramatic way says, extra omnes. Martin says, roughly it means, get the hell out of here, all who don't belong here. Meaning, only the cardinal electors can remain. Outside the chapel, the famed papal Swiss guard stands guard. I thought we had bad dress attire. That's when the doors are locked. That's when the verbal and communicative gates go down. After extra omnes, there is no further communication until a pope has been elected, aside from the smoke. The conclave begins voting. There's only one round that first evening, and then you will see black or white smoke. Typically, he says, the first round is merely an indication of the cardinal's priorities. On the following day, the conclave starts holding 2 rounds of voting each morning and another 2 in the afternoon. After each vote, a needle is pushed through the ballots, binding them together. If no winner emerges with 2/3 majority, and 2 packages are put together in that stove that is in the corner of the Sistine Chapel to burn them and produce whatever smoke needs to be produced, white or black. The church used wet straw or dry straw to produce the right color. See, I told you it was temperature. But to avoid confusion, the process now relies on chemicals. The cardinals will continue to pray and contemplate and vote until a new pope is elected. All of the conclaves from the 1900s onward have been under 4 days. Francis was elected Pope on Conclave's second day. After a successful vote, the winning candidate is asked two questions. The first is whether they accept the election as Pope. And then the second is going to be, what name do you choose? And then the name is chosen. Before Pope Francis was elected, many of the faithful in Buenos Aires knew their archbishop was simply Father Jorge. Official documents are filled out, and the new pope is taken into sacristy to be fitted with papal attire. Yeah, Father Jorge is a big boy. There are typically 3 sets of vestments ready, in sizes roughly equal to small, medium, and large. Soon afterward, the senior cardinal deacon will appear on the balcony over St. Peter's Square, announcing Habemus Papum. We have a pope. It will then be the new pope's turn to emerge onto the balcony and deliver his first blessing. So in theory, by the end of this week, we will have a new pope. We'll see what happens. And that, again, is according to NPR. I think everything else is pretty much going to be the same thing. So, over the weekend, I'm going to pull this out here for a second. Over the weekend, Sportcat and I talked about the one story that he ran last week with regards to some sheriff or whatever in whatever county, Prince George's, I think, county, Maryland, up by D.C. And I kept telling him during the course of his broadcast, like, dude, you're broadcasting inaccurate information. And I get a lot of what we both do is opinionated. Mine versus his. I like to think that yours is in there somewhere. Each and every listener. I think I make a little bit more sense than he usually does, but anyway. And he's saying things like he's been convicted and just stuff that's not true. So today I'm going to make clear that during our news periods, such as his Daily Gazette, Mastiff Media Magazine, so on, we strive first and foremost for accuracy, then being timely. If it takes us longer to fact check any amount of information and we don't, quote unquote, break the story as fast as others might have, that's okay. We're here to get it right. So we're going to talk about that today. He also forwarded me somebody who he felt was interesting. I feel is pathetic. And we're going to talk about him. Steve Poplar and the Poplar Report. I don't get it. We have great information. We have accurate information. I don't understand what people think or why people think this guy's worth following. He's got like 130,000 followers. Why? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I got to make a note about that too. Um, I'll just call it misinformation. Signal Gate 2.0. Yeah, here's the other thing. Hegseth is back at it. He blamed disgruntled former employees in the media because he's still using Signal to discuss war plans with people he's not supposed to be discussing war plans. And like, really? Like, at what point do you go, okay, you know what? I've probably shared this more than once and shouldn't have, but I got busted for the one and I still have a job. I don't know. Maybe we cut and run. Maybe we go, that was close. Maybe quit while you're ahead, as the saying has been. No, he's just going to keep right on going because he's cooler than everybody else. What did he do? I did not discuss war plans. And that's all I have to say about that. I don't know, dude. I think you're a little off there. I think you kind of missed that one. So we'll talk about that. Jane will be with us in about, oh my God, half an hour from now. First up, we've got a congrats and I haven't done this in a while, and I think this is kind of a motivational thing. I need to make this a little bit more regular. As soon as I find it, there we go. Pierre's Pot. Pierre Robert is with 93.3 WMMR, a rock station in Philadelphia. A radio DJ hero of mine. I'm going to move this over so I can, it's in the camera shot. Or actually, you know what I mean. He's been with MMR since 1981. So today, as he does, we toast the morning sauce. Coffee. In the direction of a good citizen. So today, I guess I got to go to the southwest direction. That's kind of that way. Because we're toasting our friends down under at our affiliate Radio X and now Radio Live. They've done some tests last week and over the weekend and are soon ready to launch. I don't know. I've emailed them since. Congratulations. And said, hey, how can I help? What do you need from me? And I guess they're busy because I get like that too. As I haven't heard back yet. But congrats. Scotty, Kate, Nathan, everybody down there. Today, you're the recipient of Pierre's Pot and a toast of the morning sauce in your direction. Congrats on, of course, Radio X, but also Radio Live. And again, let me know what I can do. Scott's email to me when he said it on Friday was, it was great talking. We had a conference call last week. Great talking and catching up. We're doing this with Radio Live. Nathan apparently has a server that runs out of his house or something close to home that he monitors. And during that call, we talked about Right Talk Radio, perhaps possible being on it. And I don't mean to presume that's where it's going to be. That's much more their decision than it is mine. But in light of, and I'm even looking at another story here on YouTube that I'll try to play it during the break, or maybe I'll just, I don't know. I'm guessing there's going to be some language on it that might not be the best. I say that because it's somebody that I admire for what he's doing in the broadcasting community. David Pakman is. You gotta hold on a second. Open that one. David Pakman has already been targeted by this regime.
Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth.
Hold on a second. This is from CNN, where he's blaming disgruntled former employees in the media because of his screw up. So my purpose for Yergs.com, Yergs.radio, everything, because today is, by the way, the last day that we're going to be on YouTube. So everybody's aware of that. As far as streaming live, today will be the last day that we're on YouTube. I know there were some days we weren't on last week, but I wanted to come back and just wrap up with that type of comment this today. I with one of the things that we're going to talk about today, this Steve Poplar is somebody like us, presumably does this out of his house, a little less than even Benny Johnson or Ben Shapiro or David or Brian Tyler Cohen. You know, I would love to have 130,000 people on my social media when I've got right around half that on terrestrial radio. And this guy's lying to him. Oh, he'll read from the Constitution, but not all of it. Not kind of like this thing we call important parts. That is what we call a lie of omission. When there's something that you have that you obviously need to pass along as part of what you're already talking about, but you withhold that to mislead the people to whom you're talking, it's like you lied. Instead of telling his viewers that Congress is the only one that can suspend what's called the writ of habeas corpus, due process. He made it sound like the Trump administration did it legally. They did not. But there he is with over 100,000 subscribers who believe the crap that he says. We, on the other hand, are going to be honest with you. And because of that, I suspect we too will be persecuted by this administration, like David is, like Brian Tyler Cohen is, like anybody with the balls to speak out. And for those of you down in Australia, it's going to happen to you too. Money buys anything. It just depends on how immoral the purchaser is as to what it's going to buy. And so when my government comes after me, I'm looking to not have my servers hosting Yergs.radio, Yergs.com, the newsletters, and so on here on American soil. So they can't get to it. And with that, we congratulate again our friends at Radio X and Radio Live, and look forward to not just swapping shows as we are, Sportcats Gazette will be up in about an hour and a half from now. After that, I think we've revamped the schedule a little bit in the afternoon. Doing all of the Mastiff Media magazines that one week was just too much. I can't do that, edit the show like I need to. Today I've got to produce 2 separate edits because in 25 minutes from now, Jane and I are going to do Both Sides Now, which is part of Up the Middle, but it's also a separate podcast by itself. I also take these segments, instead of doing 1 2-hour episode for RSS feeds, podcast purposes, I split it up into, if I'm mumbling about stuff like this, I don't even use that unless it's something that I need to pass, like, we're no longer going to be live on YouTube. But then also, I'll keep it each segment by topic and release a 20, 30-minute, 40-minute episode, and as many as needed to get everything out of that 2 hours, but as needed. So if there's something else that we don't need, that doesn't get put onto the RSS feed. Sorry, you got to sit here and listen to me, but it's part of being on radio. So anyway, one more time. A toast to the morning sauce in the direction of our folks down under. Congrats on the formation of Radio Live. Australia's conversation starts there. All right, let me do a commercial. When we come back, we'll talk about Signal Gate 2.0 and then also the misinformation that is all over the right and the left too. But I mean, wow, it's bad. All right. This is Up the Middle on the Mastiff Media Network. We'll be back right after this.
Hey gang, it's Jurgs from Up the Middle. Are you conservative? Tired of being told what to think or how to think it? Or that you have to support a certain regime or quote-unquote administration? Switch on over to Right Talk Radio. Radio and conversation and political talk for free speech and for conservatives in their right mind. Right Talk Radio by Mastiff.
I don't have my affiliates list up, damn it. But we'll talk about, let me get this quick. I want to do Build a Space and Biz Growth Collective. Build a Space is a group of folks, good, smart people. You've got Jurgs.com back up and running. Ken says, good morning. Oh, I got to start that clock too. Got to get used to doing that. Ken says, good morning. I'm here, just freaking pulled my back. Wow. Who did you do that with? Wishful thinking for him. Hopefully he'll be okay. Get rest, man. Ice, then heat. Hey, Texas Johnny. Thanks for joining on Instagram. Build a Space has redone Jurgs.com, and we're still tweaking some things, but it's just already so much better than the 1.0 version. Check out what they can do for you. Go to builda.space. Builda.space. Let me put that up there. And one of the products they got is this new thing. There it is on the screen. You scan that QR code. Howdy, man. Texas. This feed goes to all my socials to include Insta, but the chat from Instagram does not come over to the group chat. So Johnny's saying howdy. It's giving a wave. So the other thing that they do is the Biz Growth Collective. This is cool. Scan that QR code. It's like their LinkedIn. Way better than LinkedIn. And I say that because you all know that I got kicked off LinkedIn last fall for telling the truth about the Trump administration. Well, here you can actually tell the truth. Scan that QR code right there. Write that one. And the one up there. And your tech stuff will be. And I got to talk to him about that because Build a Space also does ad sales. And I'm looking to sell ad spots here with not just Up the Middle, but also Yerg's Radio. And when we launch Rainbow Radio for the LGBT community, White Talk Radio for the conservative community, we'll do another left side one. I mean, Rainbow Radio kind of is already there, but there's that. And then next year, we got a sports station coming up, Sports Talk, and actually play-by-play. That's going to be cool. So there it is. Build a Space in the Biz Growth Collective. Scan both of them. Check them out today, or whenever you get a chance, but scan it now so you got it. All right, next up, Signalgate 2.0. Yeah, because if screwing up royally the first time around wasn't good enough, let's text my brother and show him what our battle plans are. Or other family members who, by the way, do not have the security clearance needed to be a part of this conversation. And didn't we also already discuss Signal is not an appropriate method to have that? I don't know, man. It's like the stupidity with this administration gets funny after a while. It's sad. This is, I think, John Brennan from CNN. Or John Bremer from CNN.
Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth responding. The embattled Defense Secretary just spoke, seeming to attack some of his closest former advisors and the media after we learned overnight that he shared detailed military plans in a second Signal chat. This one included his wife and his brother. Let's get right to CNN's Natasha Bertrand in Washington for the latest on all these very new, very significant developments.
Good morning, John. Yes, we can.
Okay, let me stop you all right there. You can barely see it because I didn't stop it soon enough. Maybe I can back it up some. I don't know. There we go. The pocket square that this goofball insists on constantly wearing. Has nobody told him that is essentially blasphemy of the American flag? He is bastardizing the American flag by putting a portion of it in his pocket with such display. I know he thinks he's being patriotic, but that is not okay. I took it off my minivan. I had the thin blue line mixed in with a black and white American flag. First of all, black and white is not okay. And using the American flag for anything other than the American flag is not okay. This guy's the Secretary of Defense. People die for that flag. And he puts it on his ugly face.
Good morning, John. Yes, we confirmed last night that Secretary Hegseth did have a second Signal chat that included his brother, his wife, and his lawyer, in which he disclosed sensitive details about U.S. military operations against the Houthis in Yemen. This was around the same time as that first Signal chat that was disclosed last month, when the editor of The Atlantic was accidentally included in a Signal chat that Hegseth had with other cabinet officials. This, of course, is different. It was on his personal phone, and we are told that this was a group chat that was set up as part of his confirmation process so he could kind of strategize with his closest allies. But he continued using that chat, we are told, after he was confirmed as Secretary of Defense. And ultimately, he did end up sharing information about military plans with the people on that chat, many of whom, including his wife, did not have an obvious need to know about these military operations. Now, Hegseth did issue his first public comments about this just a few minutes ago from the White House at the Easter egg roll.
I'm going to pause it because I will bet my mortgage that he does not claim or accept any responsibility for having made a mistake. This is all somebody else's fault. Any takers? I got a nice house. It might not be all that nice right now. So Ken's asking, wait, it freaking happened again? I don't know. This might have been because I heard her say that this was before the confirmation, which means it would have been before he had any government issued phones. But it also sounded kind of relevant, or excuse me, it sounded kind of recent as well. So I don't know. But yeah, I agree. Ken says, okay, once I'm like slap on the hand, second time you should be gone. Apparently, and I don't have anything handy right now, but apparently there are already close advisors to the president who do want him gone. Let's see what this young lady has to say.
This is what the media does. They take anonymous sources from disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people and ruin their reputations. Not going to.
No, Pete, you ruined your own reputation by turning the president's cabinet into a liquor cabinet. Your reputation sucked coming in. Let's be real clear about that. Disgruntled former employees. You mean like people who have been there for longer than you've been alive? Doing what they do every day? And now cut for what? So the government doesn't have to pay them a retirement? Because you can't manage things that so many people before you managed over lunch?
Work with me, because we're changing the Defense Department, putting the Pentagon back in the hands of warfighters, and anonymous smears from disgruntled former employees on old news doesn't matter.
Oh, so this is old news. Does that mean that this is, do we think this is prior to, this is a prequel to Signalgate 1.0? Old news. Okay.
So two things, John. First, neither Parnell, his spokesperson, Sean Parnell, his spokesperson, nor Hegseth there are actually denying the substance of the story, that he did have this Signal group chat that included his wife, his brother, and his lawyer. They are instead blaming it on disgruntled former employees.
Did I call it? Did I call it? Not his fault. Oh, this isn't no, it's not. It's disgruntled other bitches. Petey boy, stop. Just stop lying, man. Yeah, that's what Ken's saying. It's just, yeah. And that bouncing that he does. Do you notice that? Did you see that? It's the same bouncing that he did when he was on the tarmac and denying that he sent through this app war plans. And that's all I have to say about that. Looks like he's screwing his zipper. That's all he's got down there. Everything else is put away.
Which is the second point here. Dan Caldwell and Darren Selnick, two of the officials that Hegseth fired last week, they actually were some of Hegseth's closest advisors over a decade. And one of the officials that left the Pentagon last week, John Olliott, who was until last month Hegseth's top spokesperson, he is saying publicly in a new op-ed that he wrote in Politico last night that it's been a month of total chaos at the Pentagon. And he said it's hard to see Defense Secretary Hegseth remaining in his role for much longer. John?
Yeah, that statement from the secretary right there in the immortal words of Ben Bradley and All the President's Men, a classic non-denial denial right there at the White House. Natasha Bertrand, thank you very much. Kate?
And just looking down, as he said, returning the Pentagon to warfighters, John Ulliott actually said in the past month, what they have been going through is not returning the Pentagon to warfighting, but just it says the Pentagon focus is no longer on warfighting, but on endless drama. That from his former spokesperson. Let's joining us right now to talk more about this is Jane Harman, the former ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee. Thank you so much for being here. I mean, I recall you saying after the first signal scandal broke that it should remind everyone that complacency invites catastrophe. And now news of a new signal group chat and new controversy. What's your reaction to this?
Well, this would be a good news day to accept Hegseth's resignation. I mean, all the news is about this extraordinary pope that we just lost, and so it might be buried. I can't imagine how he survives this. His key staff, as you just reported, has been fired by him. Some of them were on the second call. There are rumors that there may have been as many as 20 calls on unsecured platforms. I mean, that is... I don't know what you call it, tradecraft 00.1. You don't do this. And I can't imagine that Congress will defend him at this point. I wonder if the president will defend him. He's embarrassing the president. Will. So I think there are two questions. One is when he resigns, but the second one is who will accept the job, who is really competent, given this history and given the chaos at the Pentagon. Let's just look at what Marco Rubio said. He just said that this draft executive order taking away half his department, this draft executive order was in the news the last 2 days, is fake news. So what this looks like is cabinet secretaries don't make decisions. They are made somewhere else, Project 2025 or who knows. And I can't imagine that the capable people out there who are Republicans who could run the Pentagon would want the job.
One thing we know, just the latest this morning, is coming from the White House press secretary saying that the president still has full faith in Pete Hegseth. We know with the president that can change quickly, but that is the first response from them on this latest signal chat. On top of this, you have a top advisor until basically days ago of Pete Hegseth, a former Pentagon press secretary for Hegseth, calling this whole thing a month of chaos. This is this op-ed that Natasha Bertrand was just referencing, and two parts I want to pull out. Number one, saying it's hard to see Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth remaining in his role much longer, to the point that you were making. And also this, even strong backers of the secretary like me, this is from John Ulliott, me must admit the last month has been a full-blown meltdown at the Pentagon and is becoming a real problem for the administration. And just from your perspective, what does it do when a secretary's longtime advisor, his deputy chief of staff, the chief of staff to the deputy secretary of defense, they all get pushed out of the Pentagon in the midst of all of this?
Well, I recently chaired the Commission on National Defense Strategy. We said unanimously, 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans, that this is the most dangerous time in terms of national security since 1945. If I were any one of America's enemies looking at our country, I would think, this is my opportunity to do any number of things. Think massive cyber attack in the U.S. I worry a lot that we could have a cyber 9/11 any day. We've already, in the Pentagon, fired a well-qualified 34-year in the military, 4-star head of the National Security Agency, who also headed U.S. Cyber Command. Just pick that one thing.
That was bad.
And most of the qualified women at the top too, who are doing excellent jobs, including being 4-star members of the military as well. Got to put that in. And so if I'm China, Russia, anywhere, I think I've got open season on the U.S. And look at what Russia's doing in Ukraine. Russia is toying with the United States and obviously toying with Ukraine. And it is an absolute tragedy to see a place which was invaded in violation of international law after Russia promised repeatedly to respect its sovereignty, suffering this way. Ukraine is still fighting back. Europe is going to step up and fight for Ukraine. But now that we have a casual comment from, I think it's our vice president, that we may not continue to pay attention to Ukraine, I think that's hugely damaging and really threatens U.S. national security in another way.
Yeah, the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, saying on Friday, if it is not possible to end the war in Ukraine, we need to move on, and then more from there. Jane, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for coming in, as always. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah. We need to move on. That's what we're saying, is we need to move on. Keep in mind, the next countries beyond Ukraine are NATO. He's going to stop Putin. Putin's going to stop. Putin said that with regards to the Crimean Peninsula. It didn't happen. Hitler said that in 1939. Didn't happen. What else do you need? This isn't that hard. I've been saying that. This is not that hard. Ken, what's going on here in this world? I think we're alone. Me, Ken, other listeners, we're the last people with brains. For those of you on Talk TV 24, thanks for checking in. Today is going to be the last day that we stream live to YouTube. We've been saying that it was about 3 to 4 weeks ago today that Jane and I did an episode where we discussed the MAGA movement and compared it to the rest of the Republican Party, and the fact that we believe, and as a political scientist and historian by education, and as somebody that's worked with MAGA people and woke people, it was my opinion that MAGA are the real rhinos. That is to say that what MAGA represents is not Republican ideology. So why do I say that? Well, look at the Reagan administration. Look at both Bushes. And look at Trump. Almost literally everything, I would easily argue a majority of the policies are just the opposite of those previous administrations and actual Republican beliefs. You just heard him say. The Secretary of State says if we can't figure something out this week, we're pulling out of peace talks. When have you ever heard a Republican say that? But my video is the one that gets pulled down. Or now that I just heard somebody beep in, I should probably say our video, because it was the Monday episode, is what gets pulled down off of YouTube. So for that, and also because this is a 2-hour show, and I don't believe 2-hour-long videos do as well as shorter, segmented We're not going to be streaming live to YouTube after today. We get plenty of other destinations. You can just as easily go to yergz.com, yergz.com, and watch it there. Let me see, where's it at? There we go. yergz.com for video, and for audio only, go to yergz.radio. yergz.radio is 24/7. The stream to yergz.com is only when we're live. And yeah, that's we'll upload to YouTube, but only after really taking a fine-tooth comb to each episode, because it's not something I want to afford losing yet. Once I get more of you switched over to watching on yergz.com, then I won't care. Let them ban me. I don't care. All right, we're about to lose K-Shop. I think that's it. 1400 AM and 1071 FM KSHP in Las Vegas. Hop over to yergz.com or yergz.radio for hour number 2. Jane's waiting backstage. Also, DNR Studios. You can hang tight because I noticed something last week. Sportcats show, who follows me in about an hour from now, was also being broadcast to the DNR Studios app, which I think is kind of cool. I wanted to check in later to see if there was other programming that was being in conjunction with like Yergz Radio and everything else, because I think that's the feed that they're using. And I just kind of presumed that they were going to just program it from 11 to 1 and then shut it off, like UG Media does, Radio X does, so on. So, but yeah, DNR Studios still has us. ZQR Talks in Pineland, Florida. We're not on terrestrial radio there. We're not on the frequency, but they do have essentially 7 online stations connected to their website. And we're on WZQR Talks. WZQR-Talks. It's the 7th. Scroll all the way down. You'll find it. And we're live. Actually, we're live 5 days a week, but they also replay us Saturdays and Sundays, which is definitely appreciated. All right. It's Easter Monday. We've lost Pope Francis. And let's see, where's that? I got to put this back up. We're going to talk about him. Is that it? There he is. R.I.P. Francis. Let's bring out my co-host for the second hour. Hello there. Oh, you're muted somehow. If you can hear me, I can't hear you. Still nothing. Nope, still nothing. That's all right. Run through a check of the usuals. Still nothing. Nope, still nothing. I'm looking at everything on my end. It's not her, or it's not here. Everything's up on my end. Nothing's muted there. You can try that too. Leave and come back in. So, well, we're trying to figure out what's going on there. Go to Yergz Radio by going to yergz.radio. Yergzradio.com still works fine. In fact, that's where the site actually operates off of. But Yergz.radio for Yerg's radio. Just sounds a whole hell of a lot better, works better. And then also yergs.com for the video. Let's see who's down here. All right, let's try again.
Can you hear me?
There we go. Back to the commercial.
I had my sound turned off when I signed into you, so I figured it might have just had a little confusion there. Do you really want people to hear you?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I turned it off and said, look, I want people to hear me this morning. That was a mistake. That was a mistake. And my computer said, oh, okay, well, if you're sure. So now
let's do it.
Yeah. So here we are. How, what do you say? What great timing Pope Francis had, huh?
Yes.
I mean, how
low? This.
The only problem was he did entertain what's his name.
Well, so
as his last guest. That just, but you know, what can I say? Good morning, Ken. Good morning. What
are you spinning with the conspiracy theories?
Heck no, but I'm
like
sure they're out there.
Had something to do with it.
Oh, JD poisoned his wine. Is that it?
Yeah.
But you know, God love him, and you know that's an appropriate phrase at this particular time. But I mean, what great timing! What great timing! So anyway. What do you think? Rumor has it that they'll be choosing someone more conservative than Francis for the next pope. Do you have any thoughts about that? Any insights?
So, as you probably know, I'm spiritual, not religious. Yeah, I'm not.
Right. Same.
I'm not a organized religion type person because
I understood.
I don't want to be a part of anything that doesn't want to be a part of me. To put it simple and blunt.
Totally understand.
But what I had to give them kudos for with Pope Francis was the realization that with all the scandals, the sex scandals plagued the Catholic Church.
Okay.
The hundreds of millions of dollars of value in property that had to be sold off by the Catholic Church to pay these victims compensation. I think they were making a business decision when Pope Francis became more progressive. And
are you saying that the church allowed him to be or suggested he should be this?
Well, they allowed him to be when they elected him. Because you can't.
Okay. They elected him on purpose for that.
Well, I mean, maybe not specifically for that purpose, but if we
reading the room, as it
were, if we at Yerg's Radio are going to select a new head because I'm going to move on to do the other stations. If we're going to look at all the broadcasters here at Yerg's Radio, you, David Beckmeyer, Matt Deemer, and everybody, you all know each other something about your podcasts and about your on-air personality, that if you don't think that's the best leader to continue Yerg's Radio, you're not going to vote for that person.
Right.
If you think that we need to be more combative, you're not going to vote for David Beckmeyer. You might vote for Blake Fisher coming back or whatever.
Gotcha.
So the Cardinals know the other Cardinals well enough to know what they're going to get. And keep in mind, an election is 66%. It's 2/3. And so That's also, I read that in the first hour. There's 138 cardinals that make up the electorate. So 2/3 of that, you got to know the person you're voting for, I would think.
So my question still is, do you believe that the Cardinals will vote for someone who is more in line with our current administration? The Christian nationalists?
No. Not.
You don't think so?
Again, this goes back to the business decision. They need membership. But above membership, they need youth, which, is my understanding, is where it's really declining. Where maybe like
that's
me,
fair enough.
I was sent to catechism class in the Protestant church, but now as an adult, I go when mom twists my arm and when I'm home. Here, that walk to the Gulf of Mexico and back, I keep making sure that I say Mexico and back. That's my church service. And so I think the Catholic Church especially needs younger membership, because us old people ain't going to be around forever. That was what the Communist Party did in Russia. Those old people want to have that Russian Orthodox religion, let them have it. We'll get in the heads of the new people, the young people, and tell them the importance about the party. And religion in Russia literally died off. Then the Soviet Union literally died off. So, and I think that's what's happening slower, but somewhat still happening within the Catholic Church and within religion in general. So I think
well, it certainly will be. It certainly will be interesting.
I think they have to remain somewhat progressive, not because of specifically that they're fighting the Trump administration, but you can't make the statements that he made as recently as this weekend, condemning mass deportations, and then turn around and say, you know what, we get it, we understand, go ahead, business as usual. That's pie in the face. You're going to look real stupid saying that. And these Catholic cardinals, I mean, talk about term limits. You can't be elected, you can't be part of the electorate if you're older than 80 years old. So you got in, Pope Francis got in right before the deadline, because he's been in since 13 or 14, something like that, when Benedict retired. And then he died at 88. He's been in roughly 10 or 11 years, I think. So that would have been 77, 78.
Yep. Sounds about right.
Never. And he made it.
So anyway, there we have it.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that I hope that the next pope is a libtard. To use that word, but yeah, I think, one, for their own survival, it needs to be someone at least to continue the level of progress that Pope Francis supported. Maybe not openly gay ordained priests that are now cardinals within the electorate, but at least something that, now I forget what his exact stance was, but he was more pro, at least I think it was civil union within the gay community.
Yeah, probably. But his legacy mantra, who am I to judge? That's pretty progressive.
Yeah.
And, I always used to phrase it relative to religion it's above my pay grade. I have
I was
no
going to
idea.
say, that's a good point. For a sect,
I mean,
for
same
a sect
thing.
of Christianity
thing.
who has spent their lives judging people, now for the Pope to turn around and say, "Who am I to judge?" Yeah, and I can't see how they're going to survive bringing somebody in who's the opposite of that, which is what
Yeah.
you have to be
It'll be
to get
interesting,
along
that's
with
for
the
sure.
Trump administration. It just doesn't make
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, but my understanding is that there's no one in line, shall we say. They have no
They're
they have no favorites at this
yeah.
point.
There never is. There is a group. I was trying to remember some of the terminology at the beginning of today's show, from the movie Angels and Demons, from the
Oh.
Dan Brown series of books.
Dan Brown.
Tom
Yeah.
Hanks.
Yeah.
This was the one with
Yep,
Ewan
yep.
McGregor. Was the Carmelengo to the original Pope that died at the very beginning of the movie. And it turns out he's also the villain for this particular movie. And there was this Sanctus Vacante or something like that. I was trying to remember and I couldn't. And when I looked it up, it was all kinds of other words that weren't even close to what that was. So what I thought it was saying, but then Carmelengo is like the advisor and assistant to the Pope, who is now technically and temporarily in charge of the Catholic Church. In that absence. Conclave is what all these cardinals will be locked into. And the reason for that was back in the 1300s. There was like a period of 3 years where they couldn't figure out who they wanted. So whoever it was I guess if there was a Carmelengo then, I don't know. But somehow these electorate cardinals got locked into the Sistine Chapel and said, don't come out until you got somebody. And that's how the oven, the smoke was started.
Yep.
Their conclave is something to do with key, meaning you're locked in. They were fed nothing but bread and water to focus on keeping the basics.
Let's get this moving.
Yeah, little inspiration, little divine inspiration there. I'm hungry for a steak and some wine.
I love it. That's good.
Yeah. And in the 1900s, I read this morning too, they have not gone longer than 4 days of being in conclave.
Really?
That's been chosen.
I thought the last one. I thought there was. Yeah, I'll have to read up on it. I should have, but I did not. So I'm really glad you're instructing us all about this history.
And I think I read this morning that Benedict was, or rather Francis, was chosen on day 2.
Okay.
So,
well, that's
so day
good.
1.
It's almost one news cycle. Then.
Yeah. Day 1, they get together. There's a service, like a church service. They are kind of read the rules of sorts. And then the Minister of Ceremonies says, again in Latin, get the hell out. Literally, meaning anybody who's not there to vote, get out. And that's when Carmelengo leaves, any other assistants of any sorts leave, and they lock the doors.
Wow.
And then the first day there's one vote, which usually doesn't yield anything.
It's just, let's see where we are.
And then day 2, it starts with 2 votes in the morning and 2 votes in the afternoon, unless, of course, you need fewer. So
Right.
Yeah.
And 66%, huh? No matter
Two-thirds.
what
Yeah.
vote
Yeah.
it is.
And I think
Yeah.
I read that it's 138 are the number of electing. Let's see what that turns
People.
out to be. 138 times 0.66. 91.08. So either
Okay.
they'll take 91 or 92. I don't know what that means, but that's what they need to get the win. You think it's too late
Okay.
for them to write me in?
I think it might be.
I'm kind of jonesing for a prank phone call.
Oh, no.
Maybe we call the Vatican and say, hey, I want to throw my hat in the ring.
That would be fun.
Yeah, what could happen?
Listen to my show. And by the way, this is
Yeah.
who I am in.
I get a
That would
knock
be
at the
good.
door of the FBI and
That would be good.
I forget the whatever guard.
So what's in your bonnet? What bees are in your bonnet
So
today?
I've got Mondays. I don't know if you heard while you were backstage, but today's going to be the last day that I'm going to stream live to YouTube. For one reason being the censorship of whatever it was 3 or 4 weeks ago. Today, the episode that you and I did today, where we compared the MAGA Republican Party to what I feel is the real Republican Party, and said that the MAGAs were the ones that are Republicans in name only. For whatever reason, that got taken down. But I didn't get to it today. But there's a guy that Sportcat sent me who's a conservative talking head just like us. And he went through the Constitution and through the Alien Act, whatever the hell that is that he's trying to use from 200 years ago, and said, yes, the president can do this. And everybody's saying that these people are being denied due process. Wrong.
Due process.
And that's it. He just said, you're wrong. That's it. You're wrong. And I'm like, well, my constitutional law degree doesn't exactly agree with you, but I'll hear you out. And he did exactly what I thought he was going to do. He read from the Constitution and what defines the Congress's ability to suspend habeas corpus. But he never said that it was the Congress who's allowed to do it. He just said in times of war or invasion. So now Trump comes along and says these people coming over the border is an invasion.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Captain Bonespurs knows the first thing about an invasion. But this is an invasion, so he points that out. There's the verbiage that's needed. And, for in times of war or invasion. But he never said that it's the Congress who can suspend. And the Congress never did it. Now, this one is filled with nothing but sheep, so I wouldn't doubt that it could still happen. Mm-hmm. But that's not who's done it so far. And what hasn't been done has been done illegally. And oh, by the way, the very right-leaning Republican Supreme Court also doesn't agree with you. And they happen to have voted 9-0.
Mm-hmm.
So I think your video might be a little misleading. So, of course, I steered everybody over to our show. If you want to know what actual constitutional law is like, come give us a listen. And then, but this is what pisses me off, is that he's got 139,000 subscribers. And I don't know that all 139,000 are listening, but I looked at his profile And he says in his profile how he's got millions of views in each episode, in each video. And I'm looking, you got 10,000 here, 15,000 there. I don't see that little capital M behind, your number, which stands for that number in millions. 15M would be 15 million. And yet he doesn't have any of his videos taken down. And there he is spewing all this crap about the Constitution, of all things. Like he's an actual expert. Well, then he says, no, I'm actually in accounting, not law. Yeah, well, stick to bean counting, dude. Because the law ain't your thing. That's probably going to get rolled over to tomorrow. We got all of a half an hour left in today.
So you're moving off of YouTube.
Yeah. So just with the other reason that I don't think YouTube's really working for us and what we're doing with this is that this is every day a 2-hour show. So to get people into the entire video, we got to keep their attention for 2 hours. And that's not saying that we shouldn't be creating content worthy of that, but that doesn't change the fact that it's 2 hours. It's just not realistic, especially radio. We know people tune in, they go do something, they check back in at the end of the show or tomorrow, whatever.
Right. Right.
You're in the background.
Right.
So what I'm going to do, because as if I'm not doing enough editing every day, I'm going to take this 2-hour episode, cut out, in this case, the second hour where you and I have both sides now, and continue putting that, and that I've got some others that I'm going to start putting up onto the both sides now RSS feed in order of how we did them. But I'll create that raw both sides now episode. And then in the first hour, when we talked about subject one, that's going to be an episode. That 20 minutes is going to be an episode. If there's 10 or 15 minutes of rambling, hey guys, I'm not doing YouTube anymore, or else.
Right.
Nobody cares. I already did a 10-minute or 5-minute thing just for that I launched an episode saying, hey, here's a heads up. You're not going to see us this way on YouTube anymore. You'll still see us, but edited. And so we now, out of 5 2-hour episodes, we might get 10, 15 RSS podcast episodes a week.
That's
because they'll
cool.
be cut up into shorter segments. And
Right.
I think that'll keep attention better. And then in turn, increase the percentage that people stay per video. Now, if they only stay 10 minutes like they did before, instead of, a sixth of the video, they're now staying for 50% of it. So that's going to be key too, with getting us improved in the algorithm for YouTube and for Spotify and Apple and all the others. So I spent the weekend doing a lot of editing. Didn't get as far as what I've liked because Saturday was Matrix's 9th birthday. And I made sure we had fun with that. In fact, I still got photos I got to post. We went for Dunkin' Pup Cups. And then we had some beer. And I got cupcakes. We had good fun dinner and puppy nap. And the nap we had, we were all, of course they are now too. You're going to see this. This is how they sleep together. She uses her big brother as like a body pillow.
Yeah. Wow.
Those on radio, they're sleeping on a dog bed right behind me.
Right.
The larger one is curled up, and she's on the inside of Matrix,
Yeah.
curled up as well with her head on his rib cage.
A pillow.
Yep. Oh, it's funny. I have body pillows on the side of my bed that I use for him predominantly because he kind of has to, he's better off sleeping with his head up overnight. So he puts his head on the body pillow and falls asleep. She'll crawl up onto the pillows up by the headboard, sleep in like the very corner of the bed on top of pillows and on top of him. Just to cuddle up with him. That's definitely her big brother.
Oh, that's awesome.
We were just at the vet this morning. They got booster updates. And taking them both to the vet at the same time, just me.
Oh, boy.
That's fun.
Yeah, I bet that's fun.
I got a call in from the parking lot and say, hey, I'm here. And they know at this point, they know, okay, we'll be out when we're ready.
Yeah.
I don't even bring them into the waiting room.
Right.
You just go
Same.
in, go right into the exam room.
Right.
And everybody else is like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
Really? Do you want these two animals running around here? And then we're caged into the exam room together, and that's even still a circus. She's like squinting. She's like, forced. It's hysterical.
As if they could understand what you're trying to say. That's cool.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. So, yeah, censorship. And censorship, I read something on Facebook, and I did not take the time to make sure that it was true. But what I read this past week was that they've eliminated the fine arts department at the University of Jacksonville.
I saw that. I think I saw that from you.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
I mean, that changed the locks immediately.
Yeah, that's what I don't get. Okay, you're discontinuing the program. But if you don't want the program anymore, let the people who ran it take it with them. It's not like they don't have these things at their house. You know, I kept plenty of things about the Secret Service in my house. If you wanted to fire me, come to my house and get it, because I'm not bringing it back. You can't tell me that these musicians and poets and writers have everything at their office and that's it.
Very little, actually, particularly artists.
So leave the office open. Say, hey, we're going in a different direction, as is the corporate thing to say. And come get your stuff. We're going to give you a big hug. We're going to miss you. And that's it. But they lock them out like we're in contract negotiations. Like it's a lockout or a strike. And then there was the thing at, did you see the one in Indiana University?
No.
This guy studies computer science in China. And I'm going to roll the dice here and say, like, with the last name of Wang, he's probably Chinese American. Studies in China. Gets his PhD, I think, at Pitt, somewhere in Pittsburgh. I think it was Pitt, University of Pittsburgh. And immediately gets, this is in 2004, immediately gets hired at University of Indiana. The Hoosiers or whatever. Now, the FBI and Homeland Security miraculously show up on his doorstep and search his house.
Whoa.
He's immediately fired by Indiana. No question is like, hey, what's going on? He's fired by Indiana. The chief or the head of the union said, this guy's tenured. You can't just do that. Nobody knows where the guy is. Nobody's heard from him. The guy from the union was able to communicate with him, but doesn't know where he is. The same thing with the wife. The wife worked at the university too, who's also Chinese. And yeah, that's where we're at. Then the university comes back with, well, he's got other employment for next year. Okay, so even if that's true, he's still part of the faculty. You don't take his name off the website. You don't take her name off the website until they're actually gone. And oh, by the way, if he's leaving under good terms, why did you fire him? Illegally. Neil Thompson checking in. So we're not shutting any channel down. You can still get Talk TV 24, and you can still get Up the Middle Yergs. And we put Yergs on the end of it because there's plenty of other channels called Up the Middle. We're just not going to stream live to them. We're going to edit each episode, upload the episode after the fact into the respective playlists and so on. It's just that 3 to 4 weeks ago, I lost track, but 3 to 4 weeks ago, we had an episode that we did on Monday, Jane and I, that was taken down because it was labeled as misleading. Meanwhile, I've seen all kinds of right-leaning crap that's an outright lie that's still up on YouTube. But I'm not going to be like the tattletale or anything. I'm going to see the writing on the wall and set up a way that you can see us live. And the easiest way to do that is to go to yergs.com and yergs.radio. Yergs.com will have the video when we're live, and yergs.radio is 24/7 with us and other shows. And then, like I said, the edited version with all the rambling and such cut out will be uploaded after the fact. Same day, maybe the next day, but just not right away. That's all. So we'll still be there, just not in this format. The other thing is, this is a 2-hour show, and we think to maintain your attention, the shorter episodes they'll still be roughly 2 hours of content, just broken up into 2, 3, 4 episodes per day, depending on what we talk about. So there's that, Neil. Thanks for checking in. Hope we, if you want to continue with us live, I'm continuing that because of the fact that we like the audience, the fan interaction during the live show. And we're trying to continue to foster that. Folks like you, Ken, Travis, Caesar over on Instagram, those that do check in, we want to try to get people to start calling in more frequently. We're getting a good following now on dnrstudios.com and the DNR cast, Radio X down in Australia. So we're looking to try to get that so that folks can continue to interact, but still we'll have everything uploaded to YouTube and also to the RSS feeds, so you can get those smaller episodes as a podcast. But that's it. So to answer your question, no, we're not shutting the channel down or the different one. It's just going to be, the episode will be uploaded after the live show. So, all right, where were we?
Censorship, colleges getting locked out.
So this Chinese
that
guy,
kind of thing.
I don't think anybody knows where his attorney isn't saying. Nobody is saying anything except for the Indiana University about him having some employment next year. That they just, I don't know. I mean, it kind of sounds like they pulled it out of their ass. Because why would you fire him? And like you said with Jacksonville, he's locked out. He can't get anything. They've taken computer access. Meanwhile, the guy's specialty, this guy's like world renowned in computer security. You think he can't get in if he wants to?
Yeah. And that's why they can't find him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
He knows how to hide.
it's like I said earlier. Um, me, you, and our listeners are the only smart people left in the world.
There you go.
Everybody else.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. Well, I don't know if this is, forbidden content to talk about, but Leslie was listening to Rachel Maddow, who did a piece on the churches ringing bells at 6:00 on April the 18th. Did you hear or read anything about that? And was there some experience that you have to share about that? I mean, she wrote a little article in Boyertown Area Expression about churches were being encouraged to ring their bells on the 250th anniversary of Paul Revere's ride.
Oh, that would have been cool. No, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, she did. She didn't hear it mentioned or read about it too many places, but there was a Rachel Maddow piece about it. And so I was just wondering if because you've got your ear to the ground all over the place, I was just wondering if you had heard anything about that and if you experienced any of it in your area. I don't know that we did in ours.
So no,
And then
I didn't hear anything with church bells.
And then,
but I saw a lot of people. This was Paul Revere. That was Paul Revere, and now it all makes sense why I saw that. But that's it. Yeah, I didn't know anything else about it.
And then on what day would it have been? Saturday, I guess, the 19th, April 19th, which has its own history, its own memories, from way back when. I don't know how many years ago that is, but even in Boyertown, there was a little bit of a march down the street.
What for?
Of folks. Well, they were, it was the resistance, as it were.
Okay.
And there was a group, several dozen people with signs of one kind or another, objecting to the king.
Yeah.
The pseudo king and his henchmen. And then it was interesting because when I left the studio on Saturday afternoon, there were people kind of hanging around outside their doors. And I thought, uh-oh, what's going on here? So as I drove down the street, I realized there was a group of people in front of what used to be Lefevre's. And with signs, like I said, and then on the other side of the street, where what used to be Clausen's photography used to be, there were two gentlemen there, one with the Trump 2024 flag, and a younger person kind of trailing behind him. So I sort of followed them down the street a little bit so I could see if they would meet up with other people. And the only other folks involved seemed to be some fellows in loud off the back of the trucks, as they are fond of doing.
Pickup trucks and
so
flags.
it was kind of
Trump flags.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting because I thought there were around the country more protests of different kinds, and I didn't know if you were aware of that.
Yeah, there were, and very similar to the ones from about, I'll say, 2 weeks ago.
April 5th, yeah.
Hands off. Yeah. So April 19th, the other thing I thought you might have been asking about, April 19th is the anniversary of the Oklahoma City bombing.
Yep.
And I just saw a fellow former Secret Service, posting something about that. But no, I didn't get a chance to go to any from this past Saturday. I didn't know about it until Saturday. And like I said earlier, that was Matrix's birthday. So we already had a full day planned. And what I wasn't doing with the birthday pup, I was sitting here editing. So I got about 8 episodes I got to drop today from last week.
Mm-hmm.
Also edit today's. So, yeah, speaking of which, if you know anybody that wants to start as a hobbyist, but likely rather quickly move to a low amount paid position, I need an editor for a news editor for the Mastiff Media magazine. It's the news hour where we just copy and paste from it's audio. And what's so time consuming is that you have to sit here and record it because there's nothing that's downloadable. We're kind of pirating a little bit, maybe.
Mm.
And we create a playlist on Yerkes Radio that's shared at Rainbow or Radio X in Australia, in wherever you get either of us. So that's why I'm so behind with the editing, was because I really up on that last week, and Sportcat was out for most of the week. So we replaced his show with Mastiff Media Magazine because that was just the easiest thing to do.
Right.
And still would be something that was up to date. But to do after this show was 5 hours of Mastiff Media Magazine, with 1 hour break is the morning show at Radio X. Will come on at 4:00 Eastern today for an hour. But other than that, I was doing that all day, every day.
Wow. Yeah, that's really time consuming and, and a little mind numbing, shall we say. Yeah.
You'd think so. But what I do is I have 2 playlists that are filled with these stories.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them would play in like the 1:00 hour that I edited in the morning and got ready for it before my own show. And then the other one I'm putting together during the 1:00 hour for the 2:00 hour. And it's just that back and forth and back and forth. And the reason for that is there's shorter episodes like with NPR and the Associated Press that update every hour.
Yeah.
So I wanted to keep that updated. And then there's longer stuff like Daily Crypto News from the LGBT community. There's the weekly Randy Report. We use that to kind of increase the size of the amount of during that hour. So we're not putting, 6 different episodes of 10 minutes of NPR that you got to sit there and record, minutes.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Yep. Now, one of the other things you thought maybe we'd talk about today is The Wall. Pink Floyd's The Wall.
Well, close.
And
Turning
the
Away.
poem
Yeah.
that you submitted to the Boyertown Area
Yeah.
Expression. And I published it
I saw
on
that.
Easter because in it was some kind of rebirth.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to talk about
Sure.
that just a little bit?
I'll pull that up right now. Yeah. Oh, did I discontinue that? Hold on. There we go.
There we go.
So this is
Yeah.
the Boyertown Area Expression, where Jane and Leslie Misko are co-editors, and I chose it's
National
yes.
Poetry Month.
And
Yeah.
instead of writing something, which I do not have a talent for, the other option was to submit something and, of course, credit appropriately, as we did here. This is from Pink Floyd. It's from the album Momentary Lapse of Reason, which is 1987. And it's my favorite song from Pink Floyd. Let me see. Oh, that's your intro to the month. So, yeah. So the lyrics are by David Gilmour and Anthony Moore. Most of it was actually written by Moore, and Gilmour came in and tweaked some of the ending to make it fit. Pink Floyd is good at doing something called a concept album, where the entire album essentially tells a story. And Dark Side of the Moon back in the early 70s was about different things from life, time, money, and so on. Momentary Lapse of Reason was mostly about regret, and so not doing some things you wish you would have, hence the momentary lapse of reason. You realize it was a good idea at the time, but not so much later. So these are the lyrics. It's actually missing. The title is actually the opening line. So it starts on the turning away. And I'm not going to sing this, by the way. I'll be.
Oh, thank you.
I am not David Gilmour. On the turning away from the pale and downtrodden, and the words they say, which we won't understand. Don't accept that what's happening is just a case of others suffering, or you'll find that you're joining in the turning away. So, in other words, don't just look at that and say, oh, sucks to be him. By doing so, you're part of the problem. Gee, sound relevant anywhere else, maybe?
How about that? How about that?
Let me get rid of it.
Really, I mean, as I copied and pasted and read through it in order to create a headline and a summary statement, I thought, oh my God, he's talking about today. And those of us who are shrugging our shoulders and saying, oh my God, what can we do? Those poor people. And we turn away because
it's easier.
I don't know. It's easier. We're busy doing other things. And it's terrible that we're doing that.
Have you read much about Keanu Reeves and what he does as far as charitable contributions?
He's one of my favorite human beings. Yes.
Yeah, he's really big on not turning away.
Yep.
So the next one starts.
Yep. Nope. He's really.
It's a sin that somehow light is changing to shadow. And casting, I love the verbiage, the words that they pick for all of their. Yeah, Roger Waters, one of the founders of the band, up until his departure, was known as the main lyricist for Pink Floyd. I think David Gilmour's work is just as poetic as his guitar. It's a sin that some.
And I just love that light is changing to shadow and casting its shroud over all we have known. And then, unaware how the ranks have grown, those disenfranchised,
well, I think also
driven on by a heart of stone. Both. Now, whose heart is that?
That's it. You're unaware how the ranks have grown. Is it the people who are downtrodden that we're turning away from and shouldn't be? Or is it the number of us growing that are turning more and more people turning away and shouldn't be?
Wow. Yeah. And that's true too. Yeah. But driven on by a heart of stone. There we are. Yep.
You could find that we're all alone in the dream of the proud. So that's like saying.
But on the wings of the night, as the daytime is stirring, where the speechless unite in a silent accord, using words you will find are strange, mesmerized as they light the flame, feel the new wind of change. On the wings of the night, no more turning away. It's really a song to encourage us to
you listen to
get out there.
Oh, you got to listen to it. And follow.
I will find it and listen.
Follow with the lyrics, because like any song, you're not going to hear. Like I'm learning from doing this exercise with the expression. I'm learning some of the lyrics for the first time. So my favorite song, I would think I know.
I bet,
but just how singing distorts words sometimes. And this is what I'm saying about David Gilmour. The music that goes with this makes his song so much more powerful.
I
and
bet.
his guitar playing. You
Yeah.
don't have to love the electric guitar to love what he does for this song. It's really a powerful piece.
Well, it's really a powerful message for our time. There is no question about that. And I was really happy to publish it on
Yeah.
Easter, because there's some sort of rebirth going on in this song. And of course, that's what, the Arisen is all about on Easter morning. So, yeah, it fit in perfectly.
So then the big climax is
Thank you for
no
sharing.
more turning away from the weak and the weary. No more turning away from the coldness inside. Just a world that we all must share. It's not enough just to stand and stare. Is it only a dream? And that's what I wanted to go back to. It's only a dream that there will be no more turning away. Back early, about a third of the way through, it said, after the driven on by a heart of stone, we could find that we're all alone in the dream of the proud. Like, is somebody who's already not turned away, like Keanu Reeves, maintaining hope that he's going to get help to make the world better? People are going to follow his leadership. Is that what they're saying when they said we could find that we're all alone in the dream of the proud? Like he's alone now.
Yeah, and what I took from that, there's
like he's still imagining a better place.
Right. And that could very well be what hit me with that was the old, and I've heard it mentioned by one pundit or another in recent days. There's this whole thing about, so at one point they came for the Jews.
Yeah.
And, you said, well, that isn't me.
Right.
And then the next day they came for another group. And by the end, you're alone and there's no one to help you. And that's what struck me with that particular line. That's
exactly what we're talking about now.
That if we don't stand up, take care of groups, maybe that we're not part of, but for the point of it, for the reason, if we are not protesting, if we are not helping out those groups that are being marginalized now, that are being, harassed now, at some point it will come a time when they come for us and there will be nobody to help at all. They'll all be gone. Yeah. So,
and that's what's happening. Venezuelans,
exactly.
Just
exactly.
Other brown people, now Chinese, LGBT, gay, trans, whatever.
Yeah, fine arts students. Hello.
Yeah.
I mean, hello. Yeah. How? Yeah. Anyway,
it's a bad dream.
It's a nightmare.
This is a bad dream.
Yes, it is. Yep. So, what are we doing about it today?
I'm getting ready for Sportcat. He should be logging on soon.
Good.
I'll set the link again. I don't know why, but
there we go.
I don't know what the hell this is, but I don't have a valid link. Oh, okay. Well, we'll fix that. I don't know why he doesn't. It should be the same one. But
well, I pulled out a card for us from the topics box.
Yeah.
But I don't think we have time much to deal with it, but maybe we could at least think about it and challenge our listeners to think about it.
And talk about it next week.
Yeah. Like, how often do you try new or uncomfortable things? And what's a recent example? Well, you're doing that every day. And in some senses, I suppose, just trying new things is kind of scary because you're afraid you'll fail. And then the other question is, when you make a mistake, and this is interesting, when you make a mistake that others find funny, are you able to laugh at yourself?
Oh yeah, yeah. I do that every day too.
And that would be a fun thing to share if we ever have an opportunity and take the time to share those things. What are things we have done that are really stupid, and can we laugh at ourselves? So
Oh yeah. Um, I don't know specifically anything recently. I mean, I'm sure there is, but oh, there we go. Somebody beeping in.
good. There we go.
Hello, Jane.
Hello.
What do you got
Nice
next
to
for
meet
us?
you.
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
I actually met Jane yet. This is Jane Stahl from Both Sides Now and the Be Inspired podcast and Studio
mhm.
B in Boyertown and the Boyertown Area
she's
Expression.
she's
Yep.
famous. Yes, yeah, I follow her, and I've listened to some of her stuff. I tune you out, but her I listen to. So
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
you
Tell me
too,
what you.
Jane. I'm sorry. What'd you say?
What's happening with what's on the plate for Daily
Well, you know
Gazette?
the Pope died, right? So
I do. We talked about that. Yeah.
that's like the only news of the day. It seems like.
It
Well,
is.
there's some famous grandkids making stupid tweets. There was a a local elected official in Texas that her husband was stabbed to death, and she's in critical condition. That's breaking right now.
Oh wow.
And then we'll talk a little bit about the Pope. But I figure everybody else is covering that, so that's not necessary for me. But yeah, so that's
I went all through conclave and all kinds of things that are going to happen this week. And
Exactly.
well, good. Maybe I won't have to cover it then because I don't understand a lot of it. I mean, I've read about it, but
Yeah.
I don't.
But
My-
we'll take a minute and
It's
sign
only happened
off.
once in my life, so
Yeah.
yeah, my biggest education on it was angels and demons.
Yes.
ironically, Satan is trending right now on X.
Shocker.
I don't know why. I tried to figure that out. I really did. I was like, "What is there a news story here?"
Yeah.
Well, we'll take a minute and sign off, right, Ross?
Yep.
Yep. And I'm Jane Stahl.
And I'm Yergs.
And this is the end of this week's Both Sides Now.
That's it, gang.
Okay.
I'll be back tomorrow. Sport Cat's up next. Jane will be back next week. And I guess tomorrow I plugged you earlier about the guy you sent me over the weekend, Steve Poplar.
Oh yeah.
That's a blatant lie. I'll let you get running. I'll see you next week. We'll be in touch soon.
All right.
So, yeah, that's a blatant lie. It's the Congress that suspends habeas corpus, and he read from that article, but
I didn't.
the Congress.
I didn't get through the whole thing because of. So, when I sent it to you, I was about half, maybe a third. I don't know. And then with all the stuff going on, I never got back to it. And then he had two more out since then with like 8,000 views each. I'm like, how did it? See, this him, the Canadian prepper, the New York prepper, the Alaskan prep. You have no idea what I'm up against. So
I don't get it. This guy gets 139,000 followers. I've got 100, as in 100.
I got 750, I think. So yeah,
And I'd kill to have that because I could grow that. You know,
I'm trying.
When only a percentage of 100 people are sharing and liking and subscribing and telling their friends, like we remind them to, versus that same percentage of 750 people, you're going to continue to grow faster than I am.
Well, on one place.
You and I have much more relevant information that can actually help these people out and still be entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
But this guy gets off on the anger porn, and I commented on it, and
Did
all
he
kinds
reply?
of people are coming back, mother effing me because
I need to go look.
I don't know what I'm talking about, and I need Liberty University has online courses. Maybe you should take one. I'm like, well, Liberty University is a little biased. I chose to go to an actual school.
Oh, they told you. Gotcha.
University.
Okay.
He didn't like that. And I don't know what happened, but at some point I couldn't reply anymore. So I was like, okay, maybe I got blocked or YouTube struck again.
I don't know. I know that the family member that I sent tagged you and deleted your comment. I saw that. So where you said hold my rum. So
oh, that got deleted.
Yeah, it got deleted. I didn't get blocked or banned though. I was kind of surprised. I was like, well, but
remind me, that was a family member of yours?
Distant, but yeah.
Okay.
Very distant. I mean, to the point where we probably don't even know which grandfather we're connected. Well, I do know which grandfather, but from there I don't. But
you don't really care.
It's like most of my family.
What was it about? Do you remember?
Oh gosh, so much water is running under the bridge.
Oh,
no,
I do.
That was about
the number of deported. The number of deported people. Yep. And I said, yeah, you're correct. Those numbers are at least close, and also kudos to you. But the one thing that's different is Trump did not recognize due process. The others did.
I don't know. I follow him because he's a well-known author in the military world. So
yeah, stick to what you know.
Yeah. He was apparently a very good military leader.
But EMS stuff, that's your wheelhouse.
I don't either. It sucks.
Yeah, I don't talk about security anymore either. Until the day comes when I realize I need it.
I see you now holding your Glock. Free, Sonny. Yeah. You'll be the guy in the bank, that old guy on the stool in the corner.
No, I'm just thinking about having somebody drive me around in my own armored Suburban.
Good luck with that. You're good. It's gonna take you a while. So, and you're gonna be really old by then. So,
well, I gotta find some way to pay for it. I'm not talking about like Secret Service. I ain't running for office or anything stupid like that.
I knew that. Yeah.
And because I can't keep my mouth shut here, I'll piss somebody off soon enough.
Me too.
Yeah.
If I could have any elected office, I would like to be a Supreme Court justice because they get to wear the robe. They only work a few days out of the year. They get to hear people argue all the time. I like that. So,
yeah. My mom wanted me to be a judge. I have no interest in that.
I should have never dropped out of law school. I'd probably have a lot of money right now. So,
you were in law school? Where at?
Tennessee, University of Tennessee. So,
okay.
So but I was only doing the pre-law stuff. I didn't make it. Where did I made it through? I made it through accounting. That was hard. Made it through torts. I made it through mostly through civil. We were just starting to get into criminal, and I was like, yeah, I can't do this. So I hate people too much. So.
Yeah, I mean that's yeah.
Because you got to do time as a public defender during your college career, or not. You got to volunteer, and there's it just
see, that's the thing is that I can't argue for someone's innocence when I know they're guilty.
That's the way I felt.
That screwed me out of plenty of arrests. One of the things that stuck with me from early in my career when I was in the police academy is the sergeant that was the head of that academy was also one of our instructors. And he said, you don't investigate to find somebody guilty just because you think they are. Mm-hmm. You investigate to find the truth.
Yes.
And it was because of that. I know I could have screwed people. I could have, articulated this, that, or the other thing. Because like I said, when it comes to, regardless of who we're talking about, the potential evidence against many people in the world today, I've sent people to jail on a lot less who I know were legitimately guilty. There's a lot of people that need to wise up.
Mm-hmm.
Or hope T-Rump finds something federal on them and gives them a pardon. But anyway.
All right, man. Well, I got to bounce because we're running into my time.
cut the radio feed right now.
All right, let me push a
Pick it back
button. Oh, wait a minute. There we go. Oh, okay. All right, we're live on Yerk's Radio. So, all right, my friend. Well, I'm going to go over here and kick off my own studio. Have a great day. I'll talk to you later. We still need to have the conversations. So.
Oh God, yeah. And
we're both so busy.
I got to pay the phone bill, so I'll do that first, and then we'll have you get set up because he's going to have to help the sales guy. So I want to make sure that there's a zero balance, which it won't be till like Wednesday when I get more money.
No rush. I'm hoping by Friday evening I will be able to depart Knoxville. So
nice.
Hoping that. So
yeah. How long have you been there now?
The 12th was a month, so 5 weeks, I guess. Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah, and I will be back next month. So, but that's another story. So, all right, man. And then I'll be back in June because my daughter's getting married. So I just can't escape Tennessee. I'm just going to become a resident. So.
All right.
All right, my friend. I will talk to you soon. Have a great day. And oh, by the way, before I leave you, today is National Chocolate Covered Nuts Day. So go get you some nuts. So
yeah, I need nuts. I haven't had nuts in a long time.
All right, my friend. I will talk to you soon.
Right.
Bye-bye.
All right, gang. That's it for us. We're already off Yerg's Radio for the day. And now off the video feed and off yergs.com. That's it. You know the plugs. So thanks for joining. Thanks for getting off the porch, running with the big dogs. We will see you again. Remember, last streamed show to YouTube. You can find us on yergs.com and yergs.radio. I got a puppy that needs to go out. So you can also go to our Facebook page for Right Talk Radio by going to facebook.com/righttalk.dot radio. That's it.